Hello everyone, Chris Guthrie here, host of SellerCast, and in today's episode I've brought on a good friend of mine. His name is Corey, and he has built and sold not one, but two Amazon-focused e-commerce businesses for a total of $365,000 in cash. This is a fantastic story of what you can do with this business if this is the desire you have to build something up. You're creating an asset, and if you'd like to sell it, you can. If you want to continue to run it for the cash flow, you can do that as well. In Corey's case, he's able to build this business up, sell it, and then he's taken that money and moved it on to the next project. So hope you're going to enjoy this episode, and feel free to go to sellercast.com to check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks. Hello everyone, Chris Guthrie here, and we're back for another episode. And this time I brought on a good friend of mine, Corey, who's been a SalesBacker user since early 2015. And he's actually a successful e-commerce business owner. He's built and sold a couple e-commerce businesses that were predominantly selling on Amazon. Collectively, those sales totaled $365,000 in cash, which is fantastic. So welcome, Corey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, it's great because when we spoke before, I said, hey, it'd be great to have you onto this podcast. And you said, hey, well, I'm actually in the process of selling another company. So maybe we can just record this when I do that. And that was a little while back now, but there's a lot of different directions we can take this. Let's start with just maybe when you got started selling on Amazon and why you decided to get into it in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So much has been going on lately, and thanks for your patience. I started selling on Amazon 2 years ago in March of 2013. A friend of mine recommended me an online course that was teaching people how to sell online and on Amazon, and I jumped into it. I really didn't know what to expect. I was a complete newbie to the internet, so it was a completely new experience for me. But I dedicated myself and ran with it, and I'm glad I did because it worked out.
And so, were you building other businesses before that? I mean, you mentioned that doing internet type businesses was the first time for you. So were you experienced in building other businesses in other areas, or was this the first time just in general building a business?
No, absolutely not. This should be a motivation for people. I had a regular bum job before starting my own businesses. So this was my first dive into the internet and starting businesses.
Okay, so let's start with the first company, right? So there are two different companies that you built and sold.
Yep.
Can you talk about maybe each company and then how the ownership structure was? I don't know if you had a business partner on one of them or not, and maybe you can give us some details on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can. It's pretty easy to speak about. Both companies were sports and outdoors related products. One of them was a solo project of mine. I just spotted a market opportunity and I dived into it. The other one was a slightly larger company, and I had a partner with that one. And we did that together, and that was also, like I mentioned before, sports and outdoors products. So, yeah, that's where it was.
Okay, so from the time that you started, two different businesses here. So from the time you started, how long did it take you? When did you sell, rather? So how long was the company operation for both of them? And then we'll kind of dive into each one in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. The one I started with a partner was over 2 years old when we decided to sell. And the one that I started on my own, like I mentioned, I sold that one pretty much like a year and a day after starting it. It was a really, really fast turnaround. And we can dive into the reasons and why I made those decisions later if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So we'll talk about the solo project to begin with, right? So, or actually, let's start with the partner one, because I believe that was the one that you started first.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Was the reason why you did a partnership, was it just because you thought, okay, this is the first time doing this, so this is a common thing too? Is it just like, hey, let me just work with someone else, a friend of mine or someone I know, and then we'll do this together?
Well, my I did it with a buddy, and he's an awesome, enlightened dude, and he actually. He's a little bit older than me, and he had some more business experience, and he did some stuff in the past. So we pretty much dived into it together and got the ball rolling and went from there.
Okay. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about your research process, right? Or just the process you use
Sure.
to launch products. Are you able to say, how many products you had in that company, or a range of how many products you had, just to give context for people?
Yeah, we had 4 products in that company, and 2 of which I would say were selling like doing most of the heavy moving.
Okay, and can you share what the rough volume was of sales per month?
Let's see here. Rough volume was between 20 and 40, I believe. And of course, there would be more peaks during holiday seasons and stuff like that. And
Okay,
but it's definitely important to remember when we're selling a business, it's not so much how much volume you're moving, it's how much profit you're making and how much you're be able to show and prove, and how much is actually
definitely.
going into your pocket. You know what I mean? Because that's what buyers want to see. It's not sales revenue or how many products you have going out the door. It's how much money you have going in your pocket that really matters.
Definitely. So were you getting about, 40 to 50% margins or so, or
Yeah, after that first year, I think we were actually getting more than that. I don't have my
oh
P&L
wow.
or paperwork in front of me, but yeah, definitely more than that.
That's great. Okay. And so this is the first company that you started. You started it with a buddy that had more experience. And you mentioned before you're selling in sports and outdoors, 20 to 40,000 a month, and about 4 different products. So, a lot of people that might be listening are either already up and selling on Amazon, or they're selling in other channels, or they're not yet selling and they're curious about how to get started. What would you suggest someone do if they're out there and they're trying to get started today, right? Would you suggest a similar category? Would you suggest a different type of category? What maybe criteria you might give for the product bestseller ranking, or any of those types of things that can help people get an idea for what a good product could be in this landscape.
For sure, definitely. It's important to remember, the world changes fast and the internet changes even faster. So in order to be successful, you want to think like a big company. So if you're new and getting into it, I would go towards something of lower search volume and add more products and do things that way. Something a little bit less competitive for your first company to start out with, just like I did. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's definitely where I would start.
Yeah, and I think that for the most part, when you're deciding what to sell, my suggestion is usually it really depends on how much money you have to invest. So if you have more money to invest and you can wait it out longer, then you can go after something more competitive. But if you don't, then lower competitive products
Yeah, absolutely.
would,
It's
would make more
really,
sense.
just like you said, it's really going to depend on you. The more overhead you can spend, the better. And you definitely want to get into multiple sales channels, have a killer website, and things like that. We can talk more about that stuff later, but you definitely want to be able to attack this thing from all angles.
Yeah. Okay. And so for people that are curious, if you did this with a partner, how did you guys split up your responsibilities, right? Were you focused on one area and then he was on the other, or maybe you can give us just some ideas and
Yeah, yeah, for sure. He had one set of responsibilities. I had another set. I did a lot of product development. I did a lot of like logistics and the working with the suppliers and such. And he did handle the marketing and that aspect of the business, promoting, etc.
okay. And then, was this a full-time thing for both of you guys, or did it become a full-time thing eventually, or was it still just like a side business? Because, a lot of the nice part about selling on Amazon is that they do so much of the heavy lifting in terms of, they're a huge, massive established marketplace, and millions upon millions of people come there with credit cards on file already with Amazon, and it's, just buyer traffic
Yeah,
continuously.
they've got the traffic. They're just such a behemoth, and it was. I can tell you, it was just a part-time thing after we got the ball rolling because we outsourced every aspect of the business. So from customer service to international shipping to local shipping to warehousing, everything was pretty much on automatic. The only thing that was up to us was growth.
Okay. So you had like people that were helping do the emails from customers. You had like a VA or someone.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. From is this somebody doing email customer service?
Nice, nice. And then when you mentioned outsourcing shipping, I assume that you're using something like a freight forwarder or something where you didn't have to deal with customs or anything like that.
Yep, I had a full. Well, I still do. We have a full service freight forwarder, so they handle 100% all the documents, the bill of lading, the customs paperwork, everything that has to do with shipping from one country to the United States. They handle all of that, so that's really hands free.
Okay, cool. And so let's wrap up this business, and then we'll can continue on the other one. So this was up, and you're selling, doing well, part time, and then eventually you guys just decide, you know what, let's just we've made some good money, we can cash out, take even more money off the plate, and then we can use we can both use our money to go do something else and continue on.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the game plan.
Okay. And I believe this business, because we talked before, was one that was sold after. So we're kind of going a little bit separate chronological order, I guess. But how did you actually sell this business? I think the selling process is something that might be foreign to some people. People that already have been selling at Amazon, maybe they only have one product or something, and they're not yet in that state where they're thinking about, hey, this is something that I could sell.
Yeah, just like starting a business was completely foreign to me 2 years ago. Obviously, selling a business was too. I went about selling the businesses the exact same way. I went through a company called Website Closers, and they do literally everything that has to do.
Just to
Go ahead.
interject, is it
Yeah.
websiteclosers.com?
Yep, websiteclosers.com.
Okay, cool. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. But yeah, go ahead and continue.
Cool. So, yeah, you contact them. You have a very detailed conversation. They learn about your business. You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You give them everything they need, their P&L, your bank statements. They make sure everything matches up, and then they do the evaluation of your company to see what they can sell it for. And they get your input from everything, your email list, your website, any other little thing you have that can make your business have more value to a buyer. And they have vetted buyers, and they'll bring them to the table. They'll put them on the phone with you, see if it's a good match, and hopefully come to an agreement.
And so how did that process begin, right? So you worked with a broker. How long did it take to get all the paperwork? I think that I've sold businesses before, and there's, I guess it seems like it can sound like it's easy to do, but it sounds saying you get all these things collected, but it's actually it's pretty big undertaking, right? To get all this information together and make sure that as you try and sell this thing, that your broker has everything possible to know about your business.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe it was different from my experience.
Well, yeah, here's the key: staying organized. As long as you have a solid P&L, you keep all of your receipts, and you just keep everything in a folder, and you have all your tax records in line. It's really not that difficult because they have a lot of experience selling Amazon and physical product and online businesses, so they know what they need from you. You just need to make sure you can provide it to them, and obviously know your business inside out, because you answer a very, very long and detailed seller interview, so they know everything about your business, and so does a possible buyer.
Yeah. Okay. And so what were some of the biggest mistakes that you made, and maybe what you learned from them when it comes to this business? And then we can talk about your other one.
Yeah, sure.
Any problems that came up about just from the running the business itself or anything like that?
Oh, let's see here. You're asking about what I would have done differently with the business. Is that it?
Well, I mean, more just, anytime, you start a business, there's challenges that may come up that you think, oh, well, I wish I had done that differently, or there was, something else. Maybe, for example, you picked a product early on that didn't do very well, and you took a big hit because you had to do an inventory dump and you sold a bunch off at a loss to move on to something else, or I don't know, anything like that, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I understand your question now. Definitely what I would have done off the bat is been more all in. Like I said, this was my first business, so I was kind of leery of diving in. I wish I would have spent way more money on inventory and having, different variations of colors, sizes, a cooler website. And, I just really wish I went harder in the beginning and, spent that, more committed overhead in the beginning to get things going faster.
That's good advice, because I think that a lot of people, especially that are first starting out, they're selling usually just one product, right? And they're usually doing small inventory orders initially. They might run out of stock between inventory orders, and that time that you're out of stock, potentially you lose keyword rankings. At worst, maybe at best, you can regain those pretty quickly and start getting your sales going. But every time you don't have those products in stock, you're not selling. So did that happen at all with that business, having products run out of stock when you first
absolutely
doing it?
did. Absolutely it did. Because if you do the math, in your head, it can take 30 days for production, and then, 30 days for international shipping. And then it can take another, 10 or 15 days to get things on Amazon if they're busy at FBA warehouse. So you need to calculate all those, all of Murphy to understand you need to order way, way, way ahead of time to make sure, though, you don't have those problems.
Were you using any tool to help with that management of inventory type options, or not?
Oh, I was pretty much just using inside Seller Central, inside the business tools. Yeah, you can do the basic math just by going in there.
Yeah, checking the overall sales for the last period of time and all that.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I guess let's talk about the other business, right? I assume that, and I guess I'm putting words in your mouth, but I assume that you started the other one because this business was a part-time thing for you, and you figured, hey, there's, I can start another one, and I've already learned a lot about it in the first place, so might as well do another.
Yeah, absolutely. After seeing the success of the first one, I was like, wow, I spotted another product opportunity. And I was like, this would be a really, really great thing to dive into. So, I did my research and I got production started, and it turned out to be a great decision too because it was available, it was ready, and I just dived in. And since the first company was working, I felt more comfortable. You know what I mean? I gained more experience. I knew about proper packaging, about proper design, about proper marketing, and what a real big boy company actually looks like now. So I pretty much just rinsed and repeated the process, and did it times two.
Okay, so you're able to ramp up more quickly.
Oh yeah, because all
This one.
those growing pains and learning mistakes from the first company, I obviously didn't make those with the second one.
So maybe you can dive in a little bit more in terms of this company too. You started selling in 2000 or like mid 2014, right? Because it was a year and a day. You said that you from the date you started that you sold it.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was like just over a year. So
Mhm.
so yeah, I guess that would be about right.
Okay, and so yeah, you sold that one for what? When did you? How much did you sell that company for? I know collectively there were 365,000
Yeah, that
total.
that particular company went for 140.
Okay, that's great. So so basically a year and a day from the time you started the company, you created it, you presumably made money while you ran it, and then you sold for a nice chunk of cash right there away. And then of course you take that cash and you can use it in another business or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
else you want to do.
absolutely. And I know we talked a little bit because you're like, dude, you need to hold on to that thing a little bit longer. And I was just like, man, I see where you're coming from, but I've got other things in my mind. And anyhow, yeah, because we made the plenty of money, running it that first year plus the sale. So between the sale price plus the money of running the business, that was a really, what most people would consider a real good chunk of change for a very, small, shortly operated business.
I mean, every time I talk to you, it seemed like you're in just some other random country doing
Oh no, not
like other
even.
going.
No, I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, I do travel, but let's be real here. Like, our listeners need to understand that this is not something you can, lollygag about. When you run a business, it doesn't matter if it's e-commerce or if it's a, brick and mortar shop. It's something you need to completely dedicate yourself to. Don't ever have the part-time mindset. You know what I mean? Like you have to completely dedicate yourself and think like a big company if you want to survive in this world and be, have this level of success that you're looking
I
for.
like that. I mean, I think that I guess I just point that out because it's more of you've made it work in terms of being able to work from wherever you're at, right? Even if
Yeah,
you're still putting in the same hours there, you're at least in a different environment. You can meet new people, but then
yeah,
still run business wherever you're at.
absolutely. And to be real here, the places I generally stay and hang out with, there's a lot of super super successful people in these areas I hang out with, and if you're on digital nomad forums, you can see like there's a lot of very very successful internet marketing people and physical products company people in Southeast Asia, and in these different hub spots across the world. I've made a lot of great connections and great friends by being here, and I've learned so much, just by the relationships I've made.
Let's take a quick detour actually on that point. I met someone else through that lives in Thailand or still lives in Thailand, and he was talking about how there's tons of people selling on Amazon and so you meet all these people. So is it one of those things where, how do you know when you go to these countries how to find these people, right? If someone's thinking about, say they've already got their business up and going and they're living in the States or some other country and they're looking at, taking a break and working somewhere else remotely, for a few months or so and traveling a bit. How do you find these people so you can make these types of connections?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we all know in the United States, like for the kind of stuff we're talking about, we all know that the Silicon Valley, California, and Austin,
Mm-hmm.
Texas, is the main locations for for what we're talking about. But if you go on the internet and I think you just type in great locations for digital nomads, or I'm pretty sure that's the word we're looking for. You're just going to
Yeah.
have so much data come up just on a Google search, and you're going to see wonderful, colorful places with successful people. Like Philippines, Chiang Mai, Thailand, Bali, all these nice places in Southeast Asia are really popular for people who do what we do right now. Also,
Yeah, Chiang Mai is actually the place that my buddy was
yeah, I
based in
figured it
too.
was.
So
I just didn't want to say it off the bat.
yeah, no, it's he said there's a lot of people over there, but well, cool. Okay, so let's go back to that company, right?
Yep.
You mentioned that I gave you a bit of a hard time. For people listening, yeah, I've known Corey for about a year. Yeah, about the same time that he started his company was around the time that I started mine, and so we talked a lot and shared ideas, and so we stayed in touch. But yeah, so I give you a hard time because I think I previously sold a company. I used investment bankers to sell it, and it was a smaller sale, less than seven figures. Uh, so with this, what made you decide? Okay, I'm going to sell, and this is the time to sell. I don't really want to try and take it any further.
Yeah. Okay. So I really took a step back because when I sold both these companies, they weren't that far apart. One was in February and one was in May. They were not far apart. So I took a step back. I looked at my life and I'm like, what do I want to do? Do I want to hang on to this particular company and draw it out and try to make it worth more? Or is there something else I want to work for? And to be real, I have another Amazon company now, like we talked about, and it's a really, it's I'm really really went all out with that company, and it's got certain aspects that are patented. There's a lot of non-disclosure agreements and contracts and stuff I had to handle, and I actually had to hire a lawyer to handle a lot of that other stuff too. So I reinvested some of the winnings from those sales into the new company, and that's absolutely the company that I want to sell for the seven figures we talked about.
Okay, cool. So it was ultimately a
There's only so many projects I can handle. I guess that's really the
yeah.
the thing. There's only so much my brain can handle at one time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, right? If you say you started in the niche, you mentioned before, sports and outdoors was that niche, and maybe it was thought of, okay, this is doing well. I'm making good money. The company is growing, and if I can free up my mind from this project, take those resources and redistribute them into something bigger, then I can more quickly get to my goal of a much larger company in this other space. And since you've done it successfully twice now, then third luck's a charm, third time's a charm rather, and you can go for that bigger company that you'd like to build.
Yeah, and there's something else too. I think it's real important for all our listeners to understand you need to be an eternal student. You need to always be learning. And I've learned so much just between selling these companies and now because I got a really good relationship with the buyers, and I kept in touch. I still keep in touch with them well beyond the training period after they ended, and we share ideas, we talk about what we're doing, and just by watching and being with them, I'm like, oh man, I'm seeing what they're doing, with these companies. I'm like, wow, why didn't I think about that? And they have all these cool third parties and connections. I'm just like, wow, like they're hitting this from so many different angles, and just because I'm a part of the project still, it's like I can implement these ideas on, like I said, my final company I have here.
So I think you touched on a couple key points there, and let's kind of unpack those. So I think one was you talked about the transition period, right? And so that's another good point to come across to people is that when you sell a business, it's not just you get the money in your bank account and then you're done, right? It's rare that there isn't some type of a commitment that you have to the new business owner to help them keep going,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So can you talk about that process?
There's so many different ways, you can write up contracts. I know some people prefer, to keep some sort of part ownership with the company or stay on with a year or, end up being a worker for the company for a certain amount of time. But, what I want to do, generally with a business, by the way, you get whatever you can show on paper for your year, you'll get 2 to 3 times your multiples. Okay. So
Mhm.
whatever you are making in profit for a year, you can times that by 2 to 3, and that's what your total payout should be. So, and that's actually what I got. I'm really happy about that. I did take a slight dive for the following reason. I really wanted to wash my hands and clean my responsibilities, so I had the most free time and dedication I could put towards, my main project. You know what I mean? So the way we had the contract written up is as such. It was 90% of the cash upfront in my bank account on sale day. Okay. And then the remaining 10% would go into my bank account after a 30-day training period. And in my mind, that was the way to go. I think some of our listeners might agree too.
Yeah, and so were you getting offers then with different types of deals based on that, right? So you mentioned before 90% of the cash up front and then 10% over 30 days. Were you getting other offers from other buyers that were maybe offering you more money, but there are more strings attached to that money? Or
Yes,
are you able
absolutely.
to talk
Yeah,
about those? Or
yeah, absolutely. There was other people trying to write out some really long-term deals, trying to keep me on until, the company reached a certain growth period and a certain amount of revenue for, a particular products or variants. And I was just like, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a big time payout with a slight dive to make all my money up front so I can, really wash my hands and put all of my focus and energy on, one thing.
okay, yeah, that's great. So then I guess you've built and sold two companies, one with a partner, one solo. Both were well, they I guess they're part time in the sense that you weren't working full time on both of them, right? Because you couldn't have full time on both. But
Yeah, of course.
but with this new company here, what do you think that you're doing differently since you're starting it around this time? You're
Yeah.
recording this
Yeah, cool. Let's
you
talk
know,
about some differences.
yeah.
This is my other project here. Last time we talked, we didn't talk too much about this. It's a much higher search volume. It's a much more competitive niche, and I know I'm ready for it. After all the learning I've done, I'm completely 100% ready for it. So, well, like I told you, I did all the checks in the boxes. I put all my details, spent the overhead. Certain aspects are patented, like we talked about. To build a moat around what competitors can do to me and what they cannot. And so yeah, this is going to be the all out big one for me, I think.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I was curious too then. So that's part of what you've been doing for this business. Are you also doing, I know that the other businesses you're predominantly selling on Amazon, right? Is this one you're also going to launch primarily on Amazon? Are you going to also create a website for that brand, and are you going to use that to sell your products there as well?
Cool. So let's talk about this because I think anybody can benefit from this, no matter if you're selling low volume, if you're new, or if you've been in the game for a while. I think you should attack this from all angles right off the bat. Given you can pay for it. Have two or three products off the bat. If you can't, one's okay. But have a really killer website. Have cool packaging, cool inserts to drive traffic and reviews to your product and website. But also, don't just be selling on Amazon. Don't put all your eggs in the Amazon basket. You want to be selling on your e-commerce store, which is on your website. It could be Shopify or WooCommerce, whatever you're into. Most people I think I know, are using Shopify now. And then you can also move over to eBay, and there's something new called Jet.com. And you can FBA can or another warehouse. It doesn't have to be FBA. Can fulfill all of those channels. So you can actually have multiple channels that your product is being fulfilled to from one warehouse.
That's great. And so there is there like some type of a connection between Shopify and FBA that basically then allows you to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple companies out there. I think the most popular one is called Stitch Labs, and they allow you to connect everything to FBA or whatever warehouse you're using. So pretty much wherever you get a sale from, it's going to come from that warehouse and get shipped out to that customer.
Awesome. That's great. That's another good tool I'll list in there in the show notes for people to check out. Uh, I guess the other question I might have then is, beyond going after, much more competitive space, you mentioned some patent elements to this new product, a new brand that you're building. So you have, I guess it'll be easier for you to defend your place on Amazon and against competitors. Uh, is there anything that you're doing differently in terms of your website then beyond trying to drive traffic to that? Are you using any type of paid traffic or anything else that you're doing to drive sales to that channel?
Yeah. So let's talk about this too for people who are just getting started with Amazon or SalesBacker. Obviously you're going to have an LLC for your company. Make sure you trademark your name at the absolute minimum. Make sure you trademark your name. Obviously, if you get into provisional patents or design patents, that's going to be a little bit more, on the pricey side. But you can at least set something up for a year or maybe two to give you some temporary protection, while you're just getting started and while you're just getting your revenue to come in.
Can you talk a little bit more about that in terms of getting a provisional patent in place, so you're able to, for people that don't know, right? So you're getting something in place that will last for X period of time before you can actually file a full patent then, or maybe you can describe that process.
Yeah, I don't feel super comfortable talking about all this because I don't consider I'm really new to the whole patent thing, so I don't consider myself a master of this or anything yet.
Yeah.
But there's different types of patents, and they can be very pricey. They can be very pricey depending on what they are, and they have to go through a lot of reviews to get approved. But at the bare minimum, something you can do is what's called a provisional patent, and that is you can write up a patent and get it in the system for I think $300 or more. You can get going for that, and what that will do is at least give you a placeholder. You know what I mean? That'll at least give you a placeholder while you're starting your business, and that can last for 1 to 2 years depending on what you want to pay for.
Awesome. Well, cool. I mean, I think there was kind of a rapid fire questions. A lot of stuff to talk about. You're selling companies with a partner. You're selling your own company. You're starting a new company. You're going after a more competitive area with a new company. So a lot of stuff that we kind of got through.
Yeah. I feel like that last question, where there's some other stuff we were going to talk about. I felt like I forgot to say something. Oh yeah, driving traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One last thing here, driving traffic. I make sure I have really cool packaging and inserts with my product because one channel of sales does not define your product. Don't ever call your business an eBay business. Don't ever call your business an Amazon business. You want to call your business a physical products business. You know what I mean? So your private label is your business. It's not one channel. So you definitely want to think big and drive people to your website. So on your packaging and on your inserts, you want to have your own website and your own, trademarks and brand that are recognizable, that will drive people to you, not a third party.
Awesome. I like that. I think that's a good.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah.
I think that's a good closing spot for just kind of, another way to think beyond maybe what other initial sellers are starting out. Maybe they're just selling on Amazon, which is fine. I think that Amazon's great channel.
Well, that's where you start, 100%. At least for now, in this time period in the world, that is where you launch. In my mind, in my opinion, that's where you launch.
Nice. Well, I mean, we covered a lot. Are there any other things that maybe I didn't ask you, or just advice that you might give for people that are just starting out that you could suggest for others?
Let's see.
We covered a lot. So I mean, if there's not, then that's
we did. And one thing, maybe this isn't for everybody, but for me, is the whole mental aspect of the whole thing, because it requires so much thinking, and you make mistakes, and you can lose a lot of money when you make mistakes. And in the past, I've lost thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over stupid mistakes. If I just would have contacted a professional or inquired about it. So, I guess, in conclusion, I would tell people just mentally stay strong, and don't give up. And, you're going to make mistakes. And I made more mistakes than the average person, I would like to think. I would not like to think, but unfortunately I have. And just, learn from them. You know what I mean? Because if I look back, I'm like, man, yeah, could I have, made my companies bigger or better and sold them for more money? Could I have done that? Yeah. Looking back, I absolutely could have, but, I just didn't know how to do that at the time. I do now, but, don't spend your time looking back. You want to look forward and always be moving up. You know what I mean? So definitely keep a positive light and just always be moving in the right direction. And, just be happy and thankful for what you got.
Awesome, Corey. Thank you so much for coming on to share your experiences and building and selling both these companies. And of course, I wish you the best on your new company. And I think you'll get up to that next level that you've been seeking. And just thank you so much again for sharing. So we'll have links to some of the companies you talked about in the show notes. So thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your expertise.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know.
Thanks, Corey. All right, and that's it for our show. If you want to go to sellercast.com/3, you can check out the show notes for this episode. And the other thing you can do is if you want to get more reviews on Amazon, you can go to sellercast.com/now. and that will get you a sign-up link for 60 days free access of SalesBacker, one of the tools that we built to help you get more product reviews for selling on Amazon. So check that out. And additionally, you can also get 6 months of free access as well by entering our contest by going to sellercast.com/contest. Let us know what you think of this episode. And additionally, if you think that you'd be a good guest or you know someone that would be, let me know. I want to make sure that this show is great for you and helps you grow your business. So thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.